Hey guys, Christmas is right around the corner. You know the tradition. If you want Santa Claus to come by, you got to put some milk and cookies out, right? So we have milk and cookies out. Well, let's see if the tradition is true.
Ooh, cookies.
Hey, we caught him.
He's here.
Ho, and milk. Hi, guys.
Let's get started.
Hey, Santa.
So Santa's coming to town, and he made it a little early for us. So we caught him with just some cookies and milk. So let's say for those that want Santa to stop by in their homes, what kind of cookies and what kind of milk should they leave?
Cookies, any kind of cookies. Milk, Santa likes whole milk. None of this half stuff. None of this light milk.
Almond milk.
Whole milk, not almond milk, but milk that comes from cows or goats.
Yeah.
Either one. And prefer raw milk, actually.
Nice.
No, that's good. Yeah. So now you know. And then a lot of people might like to think that Santa is just a fairy tale. That is a made up story, just something to sell, something for marketing. Is Santa real?
Santa is real, and Santa is based on a real person, that being St. Nicholas. And St. Nicholas was a bishop in what is now Turkey.
Yes.
He came from a wealthy family, actually. He wasn't exactly a guy with a big belly coming from back then.
Yeah.
But he believed in giving, which is why I think it's so important for pastors and parents to stress the giving part. It's not all in Santa. When children gets on Santa's lap, Santa challenges them a little bit about the importance of giving. And it doesn't have to be giving in terms of going out and buying stuff for mom and dad or your friends. It's about giving yourself. It's about helping around the house. It's about cleaning up the yard. You know, you can give things that way. But Santa believes, based on the St. Nicholas model, that you need to get in the mode of giving. And I think that's very important to instill in children.
Yeah, that's true, because a lot of times we like to think about receiving. Yeah. So yes, giving, but giving gifts, but you give a gift in order to receive a gift.
Exactly.
So what happens if you don't receive a gift, but you would like to give a gift? So I would say, focus on that. Giving, and not just because I gave somebody something, I'm going to receive
Don't
another
expect
gift.
it back. Yeah. Like, it's not going to be automatic. Like, oh, I'm only going to give because I know I'm going to receive something.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a young child one time. I had the full suit on, and we were at a function. It was a hayride, and a child come up to me. I would say is 7 years old. Asked me if Santa was real. Of course, Santa's real. Then the next question: are you the real Santa? Well, you don't want to lie to children, so.
Oh, sure, that's tough.
So I asked him, I said, does the real Santa have real whiskers? Uh-huh. And I leaned over. I said, grab on. And he was hesitant, but that's all right, just grab. He grabbed on. I said, hold on tight. And I picked him up with my beard.
Oh, wow.
And I put him back down. I said, is that a real beard? And then he ran away to mommy. And I didn't have to answer any more questions. Now, I didn't lie to him, but I answered his question to his satisfaction. So
Nice.
Well, I'm sure that's tough, because what do you say in the moment?
Yeah.
What do you have to come up with something, like you said, and trying not to lie to somebody, to a kid, but also guide them not into disbelief, or don't leave them kind of like wondering.
Which I guess that also kind of brings up a question for me is, let's say, for example, maybe for the moms out there, they're watching this and their kid asks them, hey, is Santa real? What do you think the mom or the dad could answer in that scenario?
I think that's a perfect opportunity, and you can take that one step further for a pastor from the pulpit, even talking about to redirect to Saint Nicholas, because you don't have to lie to him, you don't have to fib to him. You can talk about Saint Nicholas being a real person and the importance of giving. And Santa Claus is based on Saint Nicholas. And when I go, every year I go to our local parish school, Catholic school. There's a lot of, well, I don't know how many, but there's a substantial number of non-Catholics that go to that school. But that's what I do. I talk about St. Nicholas. I go to each classroom. And last year or the year before, I can't remember, it happened to be on December the 6th, which is St. Nicholas Day.
Yeah.
And they were well coached before I got there. Anybody know what today is? It's St. Nicholas Day. And who was St. Nicholas? And they knew, most of them.
Nice.
And that's how we talked about the importance of giving.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
So I think that parents, is Santa Claus real? I just redirect it. Santa Claus is based on St. Nicholas. And they need to know that story, I think. So.
Yeah.
A lot of times we look at Santa Claus and we think of somebody who's very cheerful, very happy, and obviously likes to give. But St. Nicholas wasn't always like that, because there is a famous story that St. Nicholas actually slapped somebody in the face. Not just anybody. He was a heretic, because they were in the Council of Nicaea and they were discussing whether Jesus was truly God, whether they were discussing about the Holy Trinity. And this one bishop started going against that theory. And St. Nicholas just got up and slapped him in the face because he couldn't take it anymore. This is Jesus. Jesus is truly God. He is one of the three persons in the Holy Trinity, and he stood up for that. So a lot of times we think of Santa Claus being this calm, very gentle person, or not just Santa Claus, St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas slapped him in the face.
Which brings up an interesting point. When you have a white beard, especially if you wear a red shirt in public. I'm not talking about being dressed as Santa. I'm talking about just being out in public this time of year, where starting about right after Halloween, that's when you get the, hey, Santa, people don't know if you portray Santa or not, but they bring that up. But it really is a challenge, because you have to always be jolly. You can't, or at least don't be angry.
Yeah.
Okay. With my wife's issue, we're on a 10-year journey, starting with memory loss, then dementia, now it's Alzheimer's. We go to the grocery store and it can be challenging.
Yeah.
It's not so much anymore, but at one point she would pick up things that we don't need. One time I think we had 10 jars of olives in the cupboard.
Wow.
But it gets to the point where, no, we don't need that.
Yeah.
But you have to do it in such a way, because especially around Christmas time, people are looking at you. Santa does not want to appear certainly mean.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware of that. And you shouldn't do it anyway.
Yeah.
But if you have the Santa look, you have that responsibility to kind of at least appear jolly.
I think I will never fit the look. I'm still waiting. Hopefully by that time, I'd grow a beard.
Well, the key is you need a job that's very stressful so that your beard turns white prematurely.
But what job do I need in order for my beard to grow first?
Well, in my case, I've spent 40 years dealing with politicians, so that's enough to make. First of all, it makes you grow a beard better, because when you're around politicians an awful lot, there's a certain amount of stuff that floats in the air that fertilizes your beard. And
That's the secret.
that's the politics of it.
Yeah.
And then the stressful part of it is dealing with politicians as well, and that probably turns it white prematurely.
We've learned the hack.
I'm taking notes.
Make sure you
right
write
now.
that down.
Yes. So yes, SantaJerry, we wanted to ask you, how was your childhood growing up? How was your faith in that journey of childhood? Were your parents Catholic? How did they bring you up as a Catholic?
It's a very good question, and one I've given to groups before in North Carolina. Now, I grew up in Pennsylvania,
Okay.
very small community. Well, how small was it? Well, my dad was a postmaster in the town. The post office was in our house.
Oh, wow.
That's a small town. Now, when I was growing up, I don't know what his real name was, but the guy that worked for the post office that brought the mail to our house for Dad to sort, his name was Hi. Hi. And when he would get there at 6 o'clock in the morning, that's pretty early. And my brother and I, we'd hear them talking downstairs, and every once in a while we'd hear the sound of, in the springtime, we would hear the sound of little baby chickens, the chirping, because that's the way the farmers got them, through the mail. So we would go down, the boxes were, 3 foot square, roughly, maybe 6-8 inches high, and they had holes in them for the little chicks to breathe. So we'd stick our fingers in there and until Dad kicked us out and made us go back. But the farmers would come in. It was a farming community, mainly dairy farms. And after the chores, about 8 o'clock, they would come in to get the mail and talk. I mean, you talk about beauty shops being the source of women. Man, you need to be in a post office in the old days when the farmers came in. But they were also wearing their barn boots, which meant they cleaned them off the best they could, but they had this distinct smell of cow manure. My dad and I didn't bother us because we also owned a farm. Mom didn't particularly like it, but that's the kind of town it was. Now, you go out on the porch, you go out the post office door, you're going outside, you're on the porch, and you look to the right, a little more than a quarter mile away, a huge, on a hill, a huge Catholic church. In a small, very small community, people go up the highway and, wow, they see this. It looks like a cathedral, but it was pretty much a Catholic community. And every hour on the hour, the bells would toll the hour. Right before Mass, 5 minutes before Mass started, they would ring the bells, to remind people Mass is starting. So the steeple was always visible, just about no matter where you went. The Boy Scout troop was sponsored by the Catholic Church.
Okay.
You went to grade school. They didn't invent kindergarten yet when I went to school. So it was grades 1 through 8.
Okay.
Every grade taught by the Benedictine nuns in full habit.
Okay.
Whoa.
And I have the scars to prove it.
Oh, man.
They had a paddle.
Let's cut that part out.
The paddle's name was Oscar. Oscar was about, I'd say 3 inches wide.
Oscar the Grinch.
And it had holes drilled in it. Me being the angel that I was, I never received Oscar.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, but
Nice.
I'm telling you, it was discipline in that school. No joke. It was very much discipline. Our pastor, his name was Francis Valentine Theobald, German, and he was a taskmaster. He was at that parish for 50 years.
Wow.
50 years. Now, my mom and dad, all my friends, none of them went through divorce. None of them. And to this day, folks, my classmates, when I graduated from high school, we married our high school sweethearts. And to this day, most of them are still married to their spouses. In
Yeah.
my case, 56 years.
Wow.
So in answer to your question, it was commitment, it was discipline, and it was faith-based. But when I talk to folks in North Carolina that don't know anything about Catholics, of course, the biggest talk was you don't know the Bible like we do. Well, in our case, that was true. We didn't study the Bible when I was growing up. Okay. Do we now? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But back then we did not. My point when I give a talk, especially to a group of Christians that are not Catholic, that are interested in knowing what it was like growing up Catholic. Okay, we didn't read the Bible every day.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have, but we didn't. But then I explain how we grew up, where you're committed to your spouse, you believe in your marriage vows, all your friends the same. I had a lot of women in my life. And they were the mothers of my friends. I can remember their voices. I can remember their laughter. Part of it because they were coming into the post office and talking to my dad, but also because of the church. We saw them in church all the time. So while you can validly criticize the way we grew up, neglecting the Bible, what is wrong with the actual practice of growing up using our Catholic faith and everything centering around the church? Now, I can't say the same today because our culture's different.
Yeah.
The commitment, the discipline, not so much. So that's the way I grew up. The Boy Scout troop our meetings were held in the parish hall. Okay. And to be honest with you, when we did the Boy Scout thing, we didn't talk Catholic stuff. It was Boy Scout stuff, but still, it was there. So that's pretty much. And my dad, he did not stress college. I never went to college. He stressed discipline and work ethic. Now that he instilled in us on the farm, and that's the same thing I did with our 4 children. We didn't push college on them. Our oldest son has an MBA, but he got that on his own.
Nice.
But the work ethic, all 4 of our children are hard workers, and they're all doing very well. But that's not because of a piece of paper at a college. That's because of something that's in here.
Well, work ethic is going to take you far. It doesn't matter where you go. So that's a good discipline, responsibility. Those are good virtues to have anyways. It doesn't matter where you go.
And humility.
Yeah, and humility.
Because a work ethic will go so far, but there's nothing wrong with hard physical labor and getting dirty. One of my proudest moments was when I was in Raleigh talking to some politicians, which is what I did. And I took one of my grandsons with me, and they would say, "Luke, what do you do?" And this is when he was in high school. "I work at One Cheese Fish Company." "What do you do there?" "Well, I head shrimp, I pack fish." Now keep in mind, doing that is not exactly a job that, you have to take a shower when you get home. You're dealing with seafood all day.
Yeah.
But he told them what he did with pride.
Yeah.
And that made me
He
very
wasn't
proud.
ashamed of the hard work.
Exactly. Hard work.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we can't really say that a lot for these days, where a lot of our teens, or even a lot of the older teens, they're kind of ashamed of even working at a simple grocery store.
Well, I milk cows. We did not have a dairy farm. There were a lot of dairy farms around us, but I still milk cows by hand. And
so that's why Santa likes raw milk.
Oh, I love raw milk. Yeah. The only thing between the udder and my stomach was piece of cheesecloth. And Dad poured the milk through the cheesecloth. And I still like cold milk, but milk right from the cow is not bad either.
Yeah.
You know, and you let it sit in the fridge for a while, and you got the cream at the top. Now, you can get real fat if you're not careful. So, but
I've heard so many good things about, freshly milked.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. North Carolina is a little bit different. It's not legal. Pennsylvania, you can buy raw milk. It's regulated, but anyway.
Yeah. So a lot of parents might ask, or kids might ask this too: am I in the naughty list? Am I in the, the good kids list? You said you were an angel growing up, right? Was that
at that particular time? As far as the school was concerned, you have to understand too. Put everything in context now. Angel in St. Mike's school was because I knew the rules. Now, I've never gotten a speeding ticket, and I'm 76 years old. Do you know why I've never gotten a speeding ticket? Because I abide by the rules. Okay? Well, being an angel is really more than just abiding by the rules. Now, when you get away from school and you're not threatened by Oscar, the paddle, that's a different story, but we won't talk about all that.
Yeah, so how do kids know if they're naughty on the naughty list or on the good list? And how can we guide, as parents, how can we guide our kids to be more good than they are naughty? I know you said abide by the rules, but what do you tell the kids that whenever they ask you, hey, am I on the naughty list? Am I?
Yeah.
Well, I'll say the first part kind of was a joke, but I remember what my dad said. Don't do as I do as I say, because every once in a while you would challenge your parents. Well, you do it. Oh, now that could get you a spanking at home. Well, it might not be Oscar, but it might be a twig from the apple tree. But seriously, I mean, the 10 Commandments is not a bad place to start.
Yeah.
And you talk about 10 Commandments, and sometimes maybe the parents have to do a little schooling.
They have to look them up.
And it's just putting that in context. This coveting thing is tough, man. You're not supposed to, you're not supposed to covet your neighbor's goods and your neighbor's wife and all this other thing. But when you're having tough times financially and you see your neighbor just bought a brand new truck, you're not supposed to look at them in anger. That's coveting.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to steal. The 10 Commandments, if it's explained in the right way to their children, is a pretty darn good guide. So,
well, a lot of schools fought to actually take out the 10 Commandments and do not mention anything about the 10 Commandments inside of the classroom. Do you think that's tough, or that's a good thing that they do that? Or, I mean, it's obviously bad, but why do you think it's bad?
I've been active in trying to keep the 10 Commandments posted in school. What's wrong with it? I mean, they talk about...
they act like if it's harmful to even abide by the 10 Commandments. I mean, it's actually telling you, to not do this. So it's a guide to help you be a better person. Why would that be bad for the children? Why would it be bad for a classroom?
Yeah, well, using marriage as an example, I mean, I really didn't find it tough to be true to my wife. So I don't see why abiding by the 10 Commandments has to be so darn hard.
Yeah.
It's the toughest thing for me has been, since growing up, I was subjected. Dad was a great guy, but he prayed an awful lot in the wrong way, meaning he swore a lot. He talked about Jesus and God an awful lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that anger had a lot to do with that. But that the struggle is dealing with anger, and that was when I was first joined the military. I got active in the Holy Name Society, which was a group within the Catholic Church for those of us that struggled with swearing. And it's really about controlling your temper. That's
Nice.
That's
Well, I mean, if you grew up with it, it's kind of like it's something that you know, or the only thing that you know, the only way that you know how to express yourself. So it could be less, you're less guilty of it. But I mean, it's something that you could work in. And it doesn't matter if you grew up always swearing, if your family did it, it's always something that you can start changing little by little.
Yeah.
But
true.
I mean, it's very common for somebody that, my parents always did it, so it's very easy for me to do it. So, because you grew up that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But that doesn't mean you can't challenge that and stop a bad habit.
my dad, there's certain things you remember vividly. I don't know why certain things stay with you, but I remember one day that we were in the barn. We had a very large barn. He looked up on the field. We had a field of oats.
Okay.
And it was a distance away, but he could say, I think we'll combine the oats today. I was just a kid, but I said, Dad, it's green. You could see from a distance. It had instead of having the hue of gold, which is what it should when it's ready, it had a certain green tint, which meant it wasn't ready. Why is that a problem? Well, number one, it clogs up the machine if it's got too much moisture in it. And that, I know what that meant with Dad's temper. The other thing is, even if you successfully harvest that green stuff and put it in the barn, then you have the problem with it going bad, either mold or spontaneous combustion, which can cause a fire, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, he just discounted, I'm just a kid, right? So we went up there, and we didn't have a self-propelled combine. We had a pull type. We had a tractor that pulled a combine, and my job was on the platform. We had bags, burlap bags, and we had two spouts that came down with a burlap bag at the end of each one of them. So this one is filling up, and when it fills up, you switch a lever, and it starts filling the empty bag, and then you tie a clove hitch around that bag and put it on a platform. And so that was my job. Well, we get up there, and it starts clogging. And after about the third time, and Dad's very upset, and I made the mistake of saying, I told you so. That's the only time my dad physically started running after me. And it was the first and only time I could outrun him. So, but he did. We quit. He never said I was right, but he did bring the tractor back and park it for another couple of weeks until it got ripe again. So.
Oh man.
Growing up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I remember. But Dad, although Dad had a temper, he was quick to lose his temper, but he was always quick to forget about it later.
Okay.
So
Yeah. He wouldn't hold that grudge.
yeah.
Yes.
But it was good growing up on a farm. Really was.
Yeah. And you grew up Catholic. Did you ever think about discerning the priesthood?
Yeah, I did until I saw girls. I don't know. Of course, keep in mind when you have a priest and he wasn't just a Monsignor, he was a Right Reverend Monsignor. He was a character. He was funny. He was a disciplinarian, and just to digress, go back to that point. But I have to tell you this: when he came into our classes unannounced, supposedly to teach us catechism, right? Nah, he just talked about fishing and stuff. But when he walked in the classroom, the class all stood up.
Yeah.
Praised be Jesus Christ. Good morning, Father, because she usually came in the morning. Shelley Hartle was the one, as soon as Father Monsignor Theobald would come in and exchange some pleasantries, it was her job to go to the teacher's desk on the left-hand side and get an ashtray and a book of matches, because he smoked cigars during class. Now, that's imagine smoking cigars in the class today. But he was quite a fellow. Now, what was your question?
Did you ever discern the priesthood?
Yeah, well, he was quite an influence, and
Well, you
I was an altar boy.
and you abided by the rules, and you saw what did that attract you? The discipline, the responsibility, the
Subliminally, I suppose. It's not like as a fourth or fifth grader, you sit down and, boy, I'll tell you this. You don't think of it that way. It's all, you
Like, ooh, I would like to do that.
oh, cool, But we started our altar boy journey in the second grade. Now, I can't say that we learned Latin. We memorized Latin. That's not the same as learning it. You learn that, second graders, so you learn certain things. Ecum spiritu tuo. They say Dominus vobiscum, you say Ecum spiritu tuo, Ad Deum coelitat, Juventutem meam, and all this. But after the long prayers, the Confiteor Deo, Confiteor Deo, and you're bowed down. You're an altar boy, and you get the cue from the priest, and you say Confiteor Deo, Omnipotente, and nobody knows you're mumbling. But back then, the altar boy had to memorize Latin.
Yeah.
But again, Father Theobald was a German, and I was. You learn discipline, too, as an altar boy. Mark Obenrader, who's now a medical doctor, and me, we were the shortest guys in our class, which meant you had to know more because you were the ones that led the procession. The tall guys were in the back.
Yeah.
So you had, that's why we were leaders, I mean, we had to lead these people.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
but Mark and I, and then Jerry Schreckengast, good German name, and Don Niederreiter, another good German name. Jerry's dad owned the local service station. That was our local hangout. Don's parents owned the lumber mill, big employer in our area, but they were the tall guys. So they were back, and they had to carry the, I call them the candles about this big.
Oh, yeah.
So that those are all things that you learn. So the idea of being an altar boy, again, more discipline, because you were given, when we went to school, we went to mass every single day, and you had your turns at serving mass during the week.
Was that how you guys started the day with mass?
Yes. Okay. That's the way it started. And anyway, so when you're an altar boy and you go to mass every day, it's only natural that there's a natural discernment that goes on. And to be honest, I can't remember exactly why or when. I guess it was right out of the 8th grade is when you usually went to the seminary. You did your high school studies in the seminary.
Okay.
And I guess it was when that decision was coming that, nah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you had already met your wife.
No.
No?
No,
You
I
said
didn't.
she was a high school sweetheart?
Yeah.
during-
So you said it was 1 through 8th grade, but
Yeah,
then,
well, she
then that was high school after that?
yeah, junior high was considered ninth grade,
Okay.
and then senior high were the grades afterwards. So we met probably in the 9th grade. That's when I started public school.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was secular school. Now I can't claim credit, but because I certainly wasn't at the head of my class, but the ones that left Catholic school and went to public school were usually, mainly the girls, were the leaders in academics in the public school.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of those. I mean, we had farm work to do.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
So Pam and I met at a dance, maybe in a hallway or something, but a fella by the name of Ron Lauer said, Jerry, I'll give you a dime if you'll go dance with Pam and
Nice.
put in a good word for me.
Oh, that's
wow.
Oh, man.
So I took his dime and his girl.
And his girl. Nice.
And I went to confession.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we started dating. Dating to us was just seeing each other in school.
Yeah.
Walking her down the hallway. I'd be really, I suppose I was a junior and she was a year behind me, and she was a sophomore in high school. I'd be walking her down the hallway, different classes, of course. And what's going on here? I'd hear this voice, and I'd turn around. It was her dad, because he taught chemistry and physics.
Oh, wow.
Very small high school, you understand. So, yeah. So I married the teacher's daughter. And I didn't do well in physics and chemistry.
I wonder why.
So,
Nice.
yeah, we dated, and when I went in the military, she was a senior when I was in basic training, and I came back from tech school, and I gave her before I went overseas, I gave her a diamond, and we were engaged for a year.
Okay.
And when I come back, my first tour of duty was Pakistan.
What branch did you serve?
We were Air Force. I was Air Force, and I had nothing to do with aircraft. I copied Morse code, which they don't do anymore. The recruiter says, son, we're going to teach you a skill that you can use for the rest of your life. I challenge you to look at the one ads for anybody that needs a Morse code operator. But I do know Morse code. It's my second language. But I come home from Pakistan. We were up near the Khyber Pass, in a town called Peshawar, and very interesting. We copied Morse code, and there were folks there too that also knew Russian, knew Chinese, and but anyway, it was an interesting tour. And then I came home and got married. And then Pam and I both went to Elmendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage, Alaska. So she was with me in Alaska.
Okay.
It was a long way from home for her. I had been a long way already, but that was the first for her.
Now, I'm kind of curious if we can go back just a little bit. You said that you were in active duty, and then so before you left for active duty, did you already know that she was the one, that she was the lady, the woman that you wanted to marry and be with for the rest of your life? Or what kind of or how did you come around that, I guess, revelation?
Well, it wasn't because, I didn't date anybody else.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I said goodbye. Now, keep in mind, this is before internet. This is before email, before cell phones.
So that's tough for us, too.
Different. Yes, it's different.
So envision this. And it's not just you. A lot of parents out there, or maybe even some grandparents, may find this kind of weird. But the aircraft I was on that took me to Pakistan in 1967, I was in Charleston, South Carolina, C-141 Starlifters. They're all retired now. They don't fly them anymore.
Okay.
But before I left Charleston, I called Pam on a payphone and said goodbye. The next time I talked to a female was when I landed back in Charleston 15 months later.
Wow.
And said, I'm here,
Wow.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to do any of the wedding planning. She did all that because
She was ready.
Yeah.
So I didn't, again, the only communications we had was
Letters.
snail mail.
Yeah.
And I would write, keep in mind, my dad was postmaster. I would address my letters to Mom and Dad, Marble, Pennsylvania, 16334. That's it. He's a postmaster, right? Oh, okay. Well, I was called in by the first sergeant one time and said, well, before that, they kept sending my letters back to me, put them in my mailbox. Well, that's stupid. I put it back in. About the third time, I got awake. We worked shift work, and early one morning, and Airman Schill, the first sergeant, wants to see you immediately. So I went over there and got chewed out because, according to customs, that address is not sufficient. You have to put an address.
Yeah.
I said, my dad's a postmaster. It's not a big deal. He gets them. But so I had to start putting
The
Post
fool.
Office Box 34. So
Okay, so how long did the mail take for it to get to from where you were at to
roughly
your,
a week.
A week.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, see, back then you could pay extra and get airmail.
Mm-hmm.
And pay extra, the airmail stamp was a little bit. And then they had special, if you were sending packages, they had, I forget what the designation was, for military overseas, APO addresses. They gave you a special rate for packages. So, yeah, it was snail mail. That's it.
Snail mail.
And I didn't take, we could have taken leave. A lot of people took leave, believe it or not, to Kabul, Afghanistan. That was considered a neat place back then. Because Kabul was not that far away from where we were.
Okay.
But I never took leave. I just left it build up.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you get married. How did the SantaJerry came about?
Well, that's much later. But
I know we're skipping a lot.
Yeah,
in
we're
between
jumping.
marriage.
Yeah. And our daughter was married, and she and her husband owned a retail toy store in Nags Head, North Carolina, on the Outer Banks. And I had a short beard, but it was white. And she asked, Dad, would you and Mom consider being Santa and Mrs. Claus if we rented an outfit for you? Sure, why not? So they rented an outfit for us, and we went to Nags Head, and we were Mr. and Mrs. Claus, and that was a lot of fun. So then we bought outfits and did it, for quite a few years. And then eventually did it in other places too.
So for a few years, you guys did it at their store.
Yeah.
Only their store for a few years, and then just kind of branched out.
Yeah, and keep in mind, their store was 2 hours away from where we lived.
Wow.
When I started doing it in New Bern was when somebody from church asked me to come to school. And I did that, but that was before the St. Nicholas thing started. It was just Santa Claus coming and waving to kids and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it was later that they decided to have it coincide with St. Nicholas.
And I remember we were talking about this, that you use this Santa Claus outfit and character in order to evangelize and preach to the kids. How do you do that?
Well, I have a belt buckle that, there's you get into the Santa paraphernalia. You can buy suits that are basically costumes for less than $100.
Yeah.
And they look like they cost less than $100. And then you can get suits that are into the thousands, that are custom made to your specs. And so the first suit that I got was relatively inexpensive, but it wasn't the costume variety, but it was still a fairly nice suit. But then you get into the other stuff. Instead of the cheap belt that comes with it, you order a real leather one.
Yeah.
And
accessorize.
And then you get any number of belt buckles that you can use. And the one that I have been using exclusively the last few years is actually the nativity scene. And I wear a little button that says, "Keep Christ in Christmas. Jesus is a reason for the season," that sort of thing. Nice. So it's nothing that we push on the kids, but it's there.
Yeah.
And many times the parents are the ones that notice the belt buckle. And what it does is it starts a conversation.
The conversation starters.
They'll ask the children, "What is that?" well, that's Jesus, that's baby Jesus. And then I might follow up and say, whose birthday is it on Christmas? And then, Jesus' birthday. And we talk.
They don't say Santa Claus.
No.
So
So,
you have the kids that are actually born like on December 25th, and they'll be like, "Oh, it's my birthday."
yeah, actually, no.
Okay.
It's, you get some crazy stuff that goes on.
Yeah.
I had a lady come through one time that I happened to know, and she was retired from the library system in our area, and she was in her 90s at the time. I made the mistake of saying, Eleanor, now what did you come here for today? Looked at me in disbelief. Why, to see you. And that was true. I mean, she was not in real good health, but she came downtown New Bern to see Santa Claus.
Yeah.
So, and we had a very nice visit. Why else would you go downtown?
Yeah.
Yeah. She didn't sit on my lap, but so. But, we had a real good visit with her. So
That's funny.
yeah.
Now, I would like to get into, since we are talking about Santa and everything, and you mentioned that your wife is, now she's suffering from dementia. Could you tell us a little bit about how that story began, like maybe like the early stages, and then what kind of like how that whole scenario evolved, and what was going through your mind in the beginning, and like first let's start off with the beginning, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, well, I've actually done a few recordings. I can't really call them podcasts. They were just recordings of me talking about that journey. And it is a journey. In our case, it started in 2014, 10 years ago, with the girls. We have 2 girls, 2 boys. And the 2 girls coming to me, Dad, have you noticed that Mom's having problems with her memory? I said, well, yeah, I have. But what I noticed, I mean, silly things. You open up the refrigerator and, we never put the butter there. I mean, it's not wrong. Yeah. It's just different.
Yeah.
And you notice things like that. It's nothing really to be alarmed about, but it's things that kind of pique your interest. That's not right. And then other things, after a while, it seemed to get worse, and we ended up going to a neurologist at one point where the diagnosis was MCI, mild cognitive impairment. Now, that's not dementia, the neurologist says. It could lead to that, but it's not dementia. But even then, now Pam was well aware of what was going on. Yeah. And that devastated her. Tears.
Yeah.
So it kept getting progressed. And by this time, she wasn't working outside the home. She was an office manager for a very busy insurance office for 20 years, and you have to be on your game.
Oh yeah.
I've heard rumors that if you're in the insurance business, you have to be on top of your game. I don't know about that, but she was. She was sharp. So it progressed. We went more testing, neurology, and then the diagnosis was dementia. And then in 2023, more testing, and then the diagnosis was Alzheimer's.
Gotcha.
And hers is very, very slow progression downhill. A friend of mine, I call him a friend, but we haven't met, only through Facebook. He's a Santa Claus. Okay. He saw one of my posts on one of our Santa Facebook pages about my wife used to be Mrs. Claus and she can no longer do it. Because, there's certain filters that you have to have, and the filters weren't there anymore. If the children were misbehaving, Mrs. Claus were letting them know. Oh, man. So we knew that had to be the end. That was hard on me. It really was. So when this Santa read my post, he sent me a private message. My name is SantaJerry, and my wife just has recently started down this road. Oh, wow. Found out he lives 40 miles away. He was living in Greenville, North Carolina. Well, to make things a little weirder, he grew up 40 miles from where I grew up in Pennsylvania.
Oh, man.
Well, his wife was very rapid progression.
Okay.
And she just passed away a few days ago.
Wow.
Her funeral is in Greenville a week from today, which I hope to go to and actually meet Charlie. But, it's so different from each case, dementia. Yeah. And in Pam's case, all her blood work, physically, she's very, very good. All her vitals are very good. She has some physical issues due to arthritis and hip issues, but other than they're not life-threatening. So it's been hard. When you are married as long as we have, and did the Santa and Mrs. Claus thing together for as long as we did, and then she doesn't do it anymore, and you have to get a caregiver when you have a Santa appearance. It wears on you a little bit. And then the really tough part was when we were downtown New Bern, and at that particular night they wanted a Mrs. Claus, and the Mrs. Claus isn't my wife.
Yeah.
And that might seem silly, but it bothered the heck out of me.
Yeah,
I'd imagine.
It really did. You're married 50-some years to one woman. She's your Mrs. Claus for all those years. And now, and the one that did the Mrs. Claus was a great, she's a super lady, and it was fun. Of course, kids don't know the difference, but I did.
Yeah.
And that was kind of hard.
Yeah, in your heart, you can feel the.
There is not two Mrs. Clauses. There's only one.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
that's why it was weird.
Yeah. So, so it's the journey's been, when I've had people, close friends that went through this. They're older than me, went through it, and their wife eventually passed. Jerry, at some point, you're going to have to come to the realization that that's no longer your wife. And I think that's dangerous territory.
Yeah.
She is my wife with an illness.
Yeah.
Because you take the vows, it's better or worse,
Yeah, definitely.
sickness and health till death.
Yeah.
So... some will think, hey, there's a nursing home coming, Well, that might, but not up here. It's not.
Yeah,
it
definitely.
just isn't. It's my job, and it may be that I can't do the Santa thing anymore. That'll be hard, but that might be because she's. That's the reason I'd like to start doing podcasts. At home, because then I can do stuff there. And I have a Christmas room that I'm working on at the house, so I can stay at home more.
Nice.
Yeah. And I admire you for that because, when everybody would tell you, hey, just see the way out, see the easy way, what's simpler. Hey, just
everybody does it.
Yeah. So it's like so easy, so common. Just go ahead and do this. But you stay firm in your vows till death do you apart, and we're called to that.
Yeah.
We're called to not listen to the world and to live out perhaps our sanctification through this act. Although it may be very difficult, although it's going to be very tough, but through this act and through this charity that you're doing to continue taking care of your spouse, that could be your sanctification. That could be your entrance into heaven. And a lot of times, whenever we see that entrance into heaven, we deny it and we say, "Nah, I don't want to struggle." And then we see the way out. So I admire you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. The other thing, though, is the evangelization that one can do just by example. Yeah. You don't have to get up and preach. Just live your life the way you're supposed to live it. I one time, my job for 40 years has been representing our state's commercial fishermen in Raleigh and Washington, D.C. And I once got a thank you card via snail mail from a pastor. He pastored a Baptist church in New Bern. I treasured that letter. He thanked me for the example that I set and I've been very active in New Bern, more in non-Catholic Christian areas. I was chairman of a Christian group, non-denominational, a Christian group for many years. My best friend in all the world was a pastor, not Catholic. I mean, and I can't. That's a separate show. I swear I'm going to do a book one day about a book about the holy roller, meaning him, and the mackerel snapper, which is me, the Catholic, about in our title. Relationship. He was my best friend, and in 2012, in December, his wife said to me that she'd like to go to church, but she hadn't been able to go because she was his caregiver. And I said, Carol, you go to church on Sunday? I'll come and I'll stay. Okay. So anyway, I went. I dressed as Santa, and almost got him to laugh. But I took the Santa suit off before Carol left, and then we were sitting at the kitchen table. He was finishing breakfast. And after Carol left, there was a noise, and it was a gurgling sound, and I knew what that meant. And I said, Walter, do you want me to call Carol? No. And I said, okay, we can do this. Well, it was a depends moment, okay? And so I helped my best friend and got him in the shower because it was that kind of a situation. We laughed so hard. I cannot tell you. Now, only two best friends could do that.
Yeah.
But it was special.
Oh yeah.
And when Carol come back,
I wouldn't say beautiful, Edwin, but
well, yeah. but Carol come back, and we were sitting back at the kitchen table, same way we're sitting, same chairs.
Nothing happened.
And she come back and looked at him and said, "Oh my," because he complete change of clothes.
She could tell something happened.
I told that story at his funeral.
Wow.
She wanted me to speak at his funeral, and Walter and I were very close, and he loved Pope John Paul. He came to one of our daughter's weddings, and he had twin boys that were there. And that time, our pastor was Monsignor Jones, and after the service was over, we're in the back, and one of the boys come up to his dad and said, "Dad, that sermon was better than yours." and Monsignor Jones gave a great sermon. He really did. The other thing about dementia or any illness, can be cancer. Well, we all have those kind of issues going on. There's certain things that you learn going through life. And some people don't like to talk about it, but that's those of intimacy. Well, when your wife has a disease like that, it's a different kind of intimacy. Most people visions come to mind. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the intimacy that one has for their children, when you're taking care of them. Nothing but spiritual love for the person that you've spent your life with. The times that while she has dementia, she knows something's wrong, and after a siege in the bathroom, when I'm helping her get cleaned up, there'll be tears running down her eyes, and she'll say, "I love you, Jerry." I mean, she knows.
Yeah.
And what would it be if she was in a nursing home? Sure, they'll clean her up.
Yeah.
I don't want them to clean her up.
it wouldn't be out of love.
That's right.
It'd be because this is my job. This is what I have to do.
Yeah. So it's it's not all bad. There's certain things that come out of it. You always try to see the positives.
Yeah, definitely.
Some she doesn't like showers, and I guess that's typical for. I don't know why they don't like showers, but and sometimes she'll actually swear at me. And I said, Pam, don't use that kind of language. Well, you do. Oh,
That's
There's a flashback. There's a flashback. Does that bring memories?
yeah, really. Well, you do. So,
that is so funny.
yeah.
Now, would you say, or do you have any particular saint that you probably are very, very fond of, or that you maybe pray to, or maybe a Bible verse that you really feel like it's really pushes you through all the time?
Not particularly. Job, of course, comes to mind. The faith. Holy smokes! I mean, and I'm not saying we're there, but But you talk about a man who was put to the test. What we do spiritually, and I will say this: I consider it a privilege that God has given me. Well, He has given me the privilege of taking care of His little girl, because that's what dementia does. That's what Alzheimer's does. You go back to when you're a little. I want to go home. She doesn't mean she wants to go to Pennsylvania, because when I go to Pennsylvania, she still wants to go home. And it's not to New Bern. It's mom and dad who have been dead for years, and the kids when they were little. I got to get home to the kids. The kids are all grown. So it's really important what we do spiritually every night. And I'm not saying I love to do it. Sometimes it's a sacrifice. We listen to the Hallow app. And when you listen to the Hallow app, the Liturgy of the Hours, you can choose I don't know how many they have. Mark Wahlberg is one of the ones.
Yep. Yeah.
We choose Jonathan Rumi, who played,
Jesus
in the Chosen. But the reason I did wasn't because of what he did. It's his voice is very soothing.
Yeah.
And that's what I want Pam to listen to. Used to be I would read.
Okay.
But now we listen to that. After that, I will go to the whatever readings are of that day for the Mass. Usually the Old Testament Psalms and then the Gospel.
Yeah.
And that's also we listen to that. Sometimes she'll get up and wander. And at first I would say, Pam, you get back here, we're listening. I don't do that anymore. If she wants to wander, she can wander. I'm going to stay there and listen to it.
Okay.
And then, of course, after that, we have our regular prayer list. Our prayer list is so long now that I have to include a category of all those people that are in our hearts but not our memories, because it's this long.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot going on.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Would you say that, or like this whole experience of of caring for your wife and seeing her in this moment of her life, would you say this has in any way maybe morphed the way that you see love from years ago, from a long time ago to now, or has it just enriched it, or what do you think?
Oh, it's morphed. I mean, it's something that you can hear about or you can read about, but until you experience it, it's profound.
Yeah,
it's you can only understand it once you experience it. And to be honest with you, I consider it a privilege.
Yeah.
I had a friend in Pennsylvania who died of cancer, and at a fairly young age. He was in his 40s. And he didn't share it with me, but my brother knew him better than I did. And my brother shared with me a paper that he wrote. He went into remission. And then I don't know how long it was in remission. His cancer came back, and his niece asked her mother, which would have been his sister, why does that happen? Why does God do that? You know, and he wrote a paper. Actually, it was to his sister, but share this with, I forget his niece's name, but it was a beautiful story of suffering for Christ. And he considers it a privilege. Yeah. And there were times that he didn't want, he wanted them to withhold all the morphine they wanted to give to him because of the privilege of what Jesus Christ did for us pales in comparison to what I'm going through, to what he went through.
Well, Jesus says, carry your cross.
Yeah.
Take up your cross and follow me.
Yeah.
Not leave your cross and then follow me.
Yeah.
So in order to come to Jesus Christ, you have to take up your cross, your daily suffering, your daily struggles, and offer that up and follow Christ. You can't follow Christ without going through your cross, without because that's what Jesus came to do. He said his apostles wanted to be seated at his right and his left. He said, okay, well, are you going to be able to basically live out the suffering that I will? Oh, yes. Okay, yes, you will. But that's for somebody else. You know, somebody, God already appointed the right person and the person for the right and to the left. But he was basically always inviting us to suffer with him. Will we be able to suffer like he suffered?
Right, exactly. The other thing, you know, generally speaking, when we talk about evangelization, the best thing I think that we can do is by ways of example. There's a song about they knew we were Christians by our love. Well, that's one way, but I mean, if people, I had a Baptist preacher one time send me the letter. I never finished that story, but he sent me a letter and I treasured it. And Walter Leake, my best friend, he told me, Jerry, I was talking to Pastor Jack and I mentioned to him how much you enjoyed getting his letter, thanking you for all you do. And I said to him, I was just kind of teasing him. I said, he's pretty good for a Catholic, right? and Pastor Jack said, he's Catholic? I don't know if he'd have sent me the letter if he'd have known that. I'm just kidding. But I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
You know, and that's,
Yeah.
you know, I like sitting around Bojangles once in a while. There's a group that, our two primary topics are politics and religion. And it's a very good discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, that's good.
None of that screaming and yelling is the actual
no,
discussion.
it's not arguing, it's discussing.
Yeah. See, those are the good conversations.
Yeah.
Well, it's been fun, SantaJerry.
Amen, brothers.
Thank you for coming with us. Would you like to have any final words? Any message that you want to leave the viewers with?
Well, the main thing is what we've talked about before: keep Christ in Christmas, and Jesus is the reason for the season. And for all those that pray the Rosary, pray the Our Father, the Lord's Prayer, and all that stuff, you need to practice some of your extemporaneous praying too, and really shock them. I shocked a group one time because they expected me to pray, oh, he's Catholic. I don't know what they expected, but I prayed. I didn't know Catholics could do that. Whatever.
Gotcha. Now, let's say, for example, if there's someone out there that may be going through, the same situation with you with your wife, or with a loved one, with a friend, a family member, or whatever. If you could kind of in one sentence, what would you tell someone that's probably getting ready to go through something like that? With Alzheimer's diagnosis, or with like that. With one sentence, if you could tell them how to maybe prepare or what to do, or the next step, what would it be?
I couldn't do it in one sentence. All I could say is there's a lot of support groups out there. I've had limited success with that. The main thing is biblically based prayer. don't forget to pray with your loved one. You know, you can't look at a book. You know, the Alzheimer's Association gives this list of 10 do's and don'ts. Most of them are don'ts. You know, don't ever ask, don't you remember? Or do you remember me? No, don't do that. It puts them in a bad. I don't like people when they do it to me because a lot of times, I remember your face, but I don't remember your name. But don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, you learn these things as you go. So if anybody, I mean, they can look at my Facebook page, and that's where my recordings are. You know, and
what's the name on your
it's
Facebook?
Jerry Pam Schill, Jerry Pam Pam Schill.
Okay.
And or if they contact me, I'll send them the recordings. So.
Awesome.
Or your email. I think we can leave your email.
Yeah,
your email?
it's SantaJerry, all one word, SantaJerry at Reagan, REAGAN.com.
And we'll leave it here so that way it's a little easier for you. And if you need a contact, SantaJerry, he's a great guy, you see. And just please offer him some whole milk.
Yes, and prayer, whole milk and prayer.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. It's been a blessing. Remember, Jesus is the reason for the season. So we'll see you guys hopefully in the next one. And maybe SantaJerry might bring you out one more time later.
Yeah, you're sure.
So
ho, ho, ho.
Just remember, life is a short journey. So let's prepare for Christmas.
Yeah. Life is a short journey, guys. Be merry and share with your loved ones.
All
so
right.
we'll see you guys in the next one.
Pax bonum.
Pax bonum.
And thank you,
Enjoyed it.
SantaJerry.
SantaJerry, appreciate it. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you.
I want to drink this.
Yeah. Go ahead.